This is the new iPhone 16 Pro, and I've been putting it through its paces in my daily life to really figure out what this iPhone is all about. Let's dive in. So obviously I haven't been using this for very long, but I did want to give you some initial thoughts, and let's jump into the design real quick. So the design here is more or less unchanged, with the exception of a couple of things which we'll talk about in a little bit here. Around the front side is where we see the biggest change here, which we have now a 6.3-inch display on the front. So the body has gotten a little bit bigger when you compare it to the 15 Pro from last year, but also the bezels are a lot slimmer. But I gotta say, in my use, just in my hand, this doesn't feel like a bigger phone. Even though it does definitely look bigger next to the 15 Pro, it doesn't feel like a bigger phone. And to me, to my eyes, the display doesn't feel bigger either, like in any drastic way, but the bezels do feel drastically smaller, which is just a very beautiful thing. I mean, we're getting so close to that edge-to-edge display, I just can't wait for it. So bigger display, yes. Smaller bezels, yes. And that's an awesome thing here. Though we do also have down to 1 nit of brightness, which I gotta tell you, at night in bed is really super cool. But personally, I like that it doesn't feel like a bigger phone, even though we do have a bigger display. And I like that the display doesn't feel massively larger either. I just like that we have those really sleek, slim bezels. I just dig it. But anyway, inside of everything here, of course, we have the A18 Pro, we have 8 gigabytes of RAM, and we have a 3582 milliamp hour battery, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So as I said, not much has changed with the design here. I mean, really, if you line up like 4 generations of iPhones, there hasn't been a whole lot of change with the design, though we do still have the action button here on the 16 Pro, which is nice, and we get that on the 16 as well, which I'll talk about in a different video. But we do have another hardware change as well. And typically with iPhones, every year we have like a flagship standout feature that's kind of just all promoted. Like we had the dynamic island, or we had the titanium frame. Well, this year we have camera control and Apple Intelligence. So let's talk about them. Camera control is a button that's on the side of the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro that allows you to control the camera in various ways. It's actually a capacitive sensor as well, which allows you to do some cool things. So basically, camera control, it's in roughly the same spot as the 5G window was on other Pro models, and I think it's pretty cool. It does take some getting used to though. I wasn't just instantly out of the box just zooming through camera control doing whatever I wanted. You just kind of feel around a little bit, and then after a little bit of time, you kind of get the hang of it. It's not too hard. It's kind of nice because when you soft press on it, it gives you the controls on the screen, and then you can like double press it, like double soft press to be able to access controls, and you can zoom in on the camera just by using your little finger on the capacitive sensor. I mean, I think it's really cool. You can adjust a lot of the controls with the camera, and like I said, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but for me, I just kind of like the on-screen button. And here's why, okay? I like being able to hold the phone as steady as possible when I'm taking photos, especially of things up close. And sometimes it's just easier just to tap the screen really quick, or tap a couple of times real fast with your finger, then depress a button to actually take a picture. Now, I think camera control is pretty cool, and it's just nice to see that we have like a dedicated camera button on an iPhone now. I'm very, very happy about that. And I'm kind of excited to see what other apps do with it, because we do have APIs for this, so third-party apps like Instagram, and I think Snapchat's coming and stuff like that, can integrate into camera control and be able to use it within their apps, which I think is where the real money is going to come from, at least for my personal use. Your use may vary. I mean, you may love having this thing in the camera app and use it every single day. Now, speaking of camera control, obviously we are controlling cameras, so let's talk about those. So on the back side, we have a 48 megapixel fusion sensor for our main wide angle camera, and then we have a 48 megapixel sensor for our ultra wide camera as well. Now the fusion sensor is pretty cool because it can do 1x and 2x with optical quality, which is pretty cool because it's just cropping in on that larger sensor there, which I think is nice. And honestly, I didn't really expect to be surprised by the quality here, because I mean, the iPhone just takes some of the most consistent photos that I've ever seen on a smartphone from year to year, and the quality just keeps getting better. I mean, there's really nothing to complain about in the photo department, at least initially. We'll deep dive into this when we get into some reviews, like after the hype for this has died down a little bit, but I think the photo quality is great. And if you want to see a full gallery to all the pictures that I took, I will leave a link down in the description for you. The 48 megapixel macro photography is just ridiculous. We have ridiculous depth of field. The details are super duper crisp on every macro photo. I mean, it just looks really, really nice. And then on top of all of that, I do want to say that we have the 12 megapixel 5x optical zoom here as well, which is nice because on the 15 Pro, we previously only had a 3x optical zoom, I believe. So having the same camera features between the Pro and the Pro Max is nice because you don't really have to make a sacrifice on getting a smaller phone when it comes to feature set, which is super awesome. So small phone fans rejoice. Oh, and in case you were curious about the selfie camera, still 12 megapixels. I don't think there were any changes there, but I mean, it works great nonetheless. So aside from having a really good initial experience with the camera so far, I will say that being able to record 4K up to 120 frames per second on this and then adjust that after the fact is a really cool feature to have here. And recording video is game changing now because of a feature called audio mix, which allows you to go back into a video after the fact and adjust the mix of like the background noise on a video. It's pretty good. So here's the new audio mix feature, and if we just go in to edit the video and then we tap on audio mix here, I can choose between in-frame, studio, or cinematic here on the side, and it really does make a difference. Let me just play this for you so you can hear it canceling out the noise.
And I got some like ambient coffee shop noise going in the background. I'm gonna turn it up pretty loud, and we're gonna see how on the iPhone 16 Pro can really isolate my voice. So let's go ahead and play with that and see how this sounds.
I mean, it's just amazing. And you can even adjust the mix here on the side. Really cool feature. It works really, really well. So let's talk about software and performance. And to be honest, I mean, this phone, we're at ground zero right now. I don't expect any performance hiccups with this, especially since we don't even have like the full feature set of this phone because we're lacking iOS 18.1's public release with Apple Intelligence on it. So I can't actually talk about Apple Intelligence really either. We have a lot of features, and I've actually demoed some of them over on Instagram and in YouTube Shorts if you want to go ahead and check those out, and I'll leave some links in the description for you, but we don't have Apple Intelligence yet. That is coming with iOS 18.1, which will have a public release, I believe sometime next month, and then we'll really be able to put this phone through its paces and kind of see how it performs with the features that this phone was built from the ground up for. I mean, they literally said in the keynote that the iPhone 16 Pro is built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence. And on top of that, with the battery life, we don't know how Apple Intelligence is going to affect battery life just yet. I mean, we do have a larger battery capacity in the iPhone 16 Pro, which is great, and I have zero complaints in the battery department. I had zero complaints with the 15 Pro, zero complaints here either. But I think that might change things. And you know, as we get further into the launch of Apple Intelligence, I'm excited to see how the battery life changes day to day. Obviously, iOS 18 is packed with a ton of new features as well, but a lot of those are coming to older devices also. So if you're not upgrading this year and you have an older model phone, rejoice, upgrade to iOS 18 today. What are you doing? There's a lot of cool stuff there. But you know what? I think that having a phone, especially if you're not somebody that upgrades every year, because honestly, a lot of people don't, having features that roll out to your phone over the course of time is kind of cool because you get new refreshing features that keep your phone like feeling fresh and fun to you, I guess, as time goes on. But then again, it is nice to have all these features the day we take it out of the box as well. There's something about that feeling of not having to wait for something, especially in this world where our attention span doesn't last more than 3 to 6 seconds. So I don't know, there's something to be said about that, but is the 16 Pro worth the upgrade? I mean, that's a question that you're gonna have to answer for yourself. Personally, me, I'm happy going from a 15 Pro to a 16 Pro, especially with the slimmer bezels and some of the camera features and stuff like that, but I'd love to know what you think.